I am Amy Gibson, and the experience I'm about to recount transformed my life in ways I never imagined. On March 15th, 2023, I wasn't merely flirting with death, I truly passed away for a full 15 minutes. In that suspended moment between life and death, Jesus Christ himself appeared to me, unveiling profound truths about the divine purpose and spiritual heritage of Black people, a message I was compelled to share with the world. The revelations I received are so powerful they will shake you to your core. But before I divulge these extraordinary insights, you must understand how I arrived at that fateful juncture. I was on my way to my local church for our weekly prayer meeting. As a devout Christian who has faithfully attended church for over 30 years, I have always felt a deep connection to my faith, even though I sometimes wrestled with unanswered questions about racial identity and spirituality. That evening, the air was crisp, and a light drizzle slicked the roads. I remember glancing at my watch. It was 6:45 p.m., and I was running a little behind. Sister Martha had asked me to lead the opening prayer, and I was determined not to let her down. Then, as I approached the intersection of Maple and Oak, everything changed in an instant. A truck barreled through a red light, and despite my frantic efforts to swerve, the collision was unavoidable. The impact was devastating. I heard the harsh crunch of metal against metal, the shattering of glass, and then an all-encompassing silence, complete and utter quiet. In that split second, I felt my spirit detach and float away from my body, as if being gently lifted free. The searing pain vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. When I opened my inner eyes, I found myself in a realm beyond earthly description. It wasn't a room in the traditional sense, but rather an endless expanse of pure, radiant light stretching infinitely in every direction. This light was not harsh or blinding. Instead, it radiated a gentle warmth that penetrated the very depths of my soul. And there, bathed in indescribable glory, stood Jesus Christ himself. His presence was overpowering, not in a way that frightened me, but in a way that filled me with absolute awe and unconditional love. His appearance was both intimately familiar and supremely transcendent. His eyes held the wisdom of eternity, and his smile radiated infinite compassion. "Welcome, Amy," he said, his voice combining authority with gentle kindness. "There are truths you must receive, truths that have been hidden and twisted for far too long." I could feel tears welling up in my spirit as he approached. The love emanating from him surpassed anything I had ever experienced in my earthly life. It was pure, unconditional, and all-encompassing. "My child," he continued, "you have carried many burdens and harbored deep questions about your people and their place in my divine plan. Today, I will reveal truths that will liberate many from the chains of misunderstanding and prejudice," he declared. And so he began to unfold to me the authentic spiritual heritage of Black people, tracing back to the very origins of humankind. A narrative that stood in stark contrast to the stories I had been told all my life, even within many Christian circles. "The curse of Ham," he said, as if reading the question in my heart before I could speak, "has long been one of the greatest distortions of my word. It has been misused to justify unspeakable cruelty and oppression. But that was never my intention." He then showed me vivid visions of the ancient world of Ham and his descendants. I witnessed mighty kingdoms rising in Africa, civilizations imbued with deep spiritual wisdom and understanding. The images were strikingly clear, great civilizations thriving under divine blessing, not condemnation. "Look closely," Jesus instructed, and I began to see the true meaning behind the events described in Genesis. The curse pronounced by Noah was directed solely at Canaan, not a blanket condemnation of all of Ham's descendants. It was never about skin color or race, but rather about specific spiritual choices and their consequences. "Your ancestors," Jesus continued, "were among the first to recognize the divine in all of creation. They understood sacred truths that many would take centuries to grasp. Their spiritual sensitivity was not a curse, but a blessing, a gift that has been misunderstood and even feared by those unable to comprehend its true depth. I watched in awe as he revealed ancient African spiritual practices, not as the primitive rituals they had often been portrayed, but as sophisticated expressions of divine insight. I saw how these practices, when untainted and pure, reflected deep spiritual truths that aligned perfectly with God's Word. The ability to see the sacred in every part of creation, to understand the interconnectedness of all things under my dominion. That was a unique gift bestowed upon your ancestors, he explained. They recognized that every element of creation sang my praise, and every aspect could be used to glorify my name. He demonstrated how this profound spiritual sensitivity had been passed down through generations, even manifesting during the darkest periods of history, including the era of slavery. This divine connection was unbreakable. It evolved into the soulful spirituals that carried both lament and hope, into prayers that could move mountains, and into an unshakable faith that sustained millions through unimaginable hardship. "Watch," Jesus said, and before my eyes unfolded scenes from a history I'd never seen in any textbook. I witnessed ancient African kingdoms where wisdom and spiritual insight flourished. I saw leaders and priests who communed deeply with God, their prayers and prophecies shaping the destinies of nations. These were not primitive people practicing mere superstition, Jesus clarified. They were philosophers, theologians, and mystics. This is the truth I carry with me, a revelation that redefines our understanding of history, spirituality, and the divine plan. They grasped the essential truths about my very nature and the way I created all things. Their wisdom was so profound that rulers from distant lands, even those recorded in your sacred texts, sought their counsel. He revealed to me that the Queen of Sheba, the one who journeyed to meet Solomon, descended from a long line of African sovereigns dedicated to pursuing divine wisdom. Her voyage was far more than an opportunity to witness Solomon's wealth and insight. It was a convergence of two great spiritual legacies, each blessed by God. Your people, Jesus continued, were among the pioneers in embracing the idea of communal worship, that when 2 or 3 gather in my name, I am present among them. They had long recognized the power of collective prayer and praise, well before it was ever recorded in the New Testament. I saw that this understanding had been preserved even through the harrowing days of the Middle Passage and the era of slavery. The secret prayer gatherings in the forests, the coded spirituals, and the ring shouts were more than mere responses to oppression. They were deep expressions of spiritual wisdom, a steadfast connection to divine truth, maintained despite every effort to quench it. The strength of your people, Jesus said, derives from this unbroken spiritual heritage. Even when forcefully converted to various forms of Christianity, they did not simply abandon what they already knew to be true. They recognized the authenticity in their new faith because it resonated with the spiritual insight that had always been theirs. He showed me that Black spirituality has consistently emphasized a personal, intimate encounter with the divine, the necessity of direct communion with God, and the belief that spiritual truth must be actively lived out rather than just believed. These were not deviations from true Christianity, but rather the most profound expressions of its core principles. Your ancestors, Jesus explained, understood that genuine worship is not confined to sacred buildings or limited to specific days on the calendar. They knew that every breath could become a prayer, every action an offering, and every moment held the potential for sanctity. This is the message I shared during my earthly ministry, a message sadly forgotten by many. I saw how this profound understanding had shaped Black churches throughout the ages. It was evident in their emphasis on experiencing God's presence, the power of personal testimony, and the belief that worship must engage the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. This is not mere emotional excess, Jesus said, addressing a criticism I had often encountered. This is true worship in spirit and in truth. Your people have preserved this deep understanding, while many others have lost themselves in empty rituals. He demonstrated that the Black Church's focus on social justice and community care is not a modern innovation or a departure from spiritual devotion. Rather, it is a continuation of an ancient African wisdom, that spiritual truth must be expressed through practical action. When your ancestors fed the hungry, clothed the naked, and fought for justice, Jesus explained, they were not merely following my commandments. They were living out the profound truth that love for God is inseparable from love for one's neighbor. Then he revealed a vision that brought me to my knees. He disclosed the true spiritual significance of the suffering endured by Black people throughout history. It was not a punishment or a curse, as some have claimed, but a deep mystery of divine purpose. Your people's suffering, Jesus said with deep emotion, mirrors my own suffering on the cross, not because it was deserved, but because through it, a greater purpose is being fulfilled. Through their pain, your people have learned and shown the power of forgiveness, the resilience of faith, and the triumph of love over hate. I witnessed how the Black experience of enduring suffering and surviving, of maintaining faith and humanity in the face of dehumanization, has forged a unique testament to God's unyielding faithfulness and power. The spiritual songs born in the crucible of slavery, the prayers whispered in darkness, and the hope that persevered against all odds were not mere coping mechanisms. They were profound expressions of spiritual truth. Your people's history, Jesus explained, stands as a living testament to my power to bring life from death, hope from despair, and victory from defeat. This is why your spiritual songs and testimonies have continued to touch hearts all around the world. They embody a profound truth. He revealed to me that Black resilience in the face of oppression is far more than mere human determination. It is a clear manifestation of divine power, the very same force that raised Christ from the dead, working through a people who refuse to be overcome by death-dealing forces. The strength of your people, Jesus declared, comes from this deep conviction that no matter how dark the night may become, my light will never be extinguished. This is why your people could sing of victory even while in chains, offer praise amid persecution, and love in the face of hate. Then Jesus unveiled a revelation that made my spirit tremble, the unique role Black people will play in the end times and in the coming kingdom of God. Your preservation throughout history has been no accident, he explained. The wisdom you have acquired through suffering, your deep understanding of spiritual warfare, and your steadfast faith under pressure will be indispensable in the days ahead. I saw visions of a future where the profound spiritual insight preserved in Black culture would guide all of humanity through the darkest of times. The ability to maintain faith under pressure, to resist dehumanization, and to discover joy even in sorrow is a gift that everyone will need. A day is coming, Jesus said, when the wisdom of your people will be recognized and sought after. The insight to see my hand even amid suffering, to uphold dignity in the face of degradation, to forgive adversaries, and to love despite hate. This wisdom will light the way for many. He showed me that the Black experience of preserving identity and faith under relentless pressure has forged a template for spiritual resistance that will be vital in the future. The lessons learned through centuries of struggle will serve as guidance for all who face similar challenges. Your people's story, Jesus explained, is not just about the past. It is a promise for the future. The wisdom you have gathered will prepare my church for the trials ahead. Their ability to discern and defy dehumanizing systems while maintaining love and faith will be critical. I witnessed how the Black Church's tradition of prophetic witness, speaking truth to power while still loving one's enemies, will become ever more important. The capacity to distinguish between oppressive systems and the individuals caught within them, to fight injustice while praying for those who oppress, will be an essential insight for the coming times. Jesus said that the spiritual maturity developed through your people's journey will guide my church through the challenges of the end times. Their experience of holding fast to faith when everything seems to contradict it, of finding joy in the midst of sorrow, and of recognizing my presence even in the darkest circumstances, will be crucial lessons for all believers. He further revealed that the Black understanding of spiritual warfare, seen not as an individual battle, but as a struggle against systemic evil, will empower the Church to recognize and resist the deceptive forces of the end times. Your people have learned, Jesus explained, to identify oppressive systems while still loving the individuals caught within them. This wisdom will be vital as my church faces mounting pressure to conform to worldly standards. Then Jesus showed me a vision that filled me with awe, the special honor awaiting Black believers in the coming kingdom. Those who have been last will be first, he proclaimed, not as an act of mere reversal, but because through their suffering you have developed spiritual qualities that mirror my own character: forgiveness, perseverance, joy in suffering, and love for enemies. I saw how the Black experience of upholding dignity and humanity in the midst of dehumanization has uniquely reflected Christ's own nature, his ability to sustain divine love even while being rejected and crucified. Your people's journey, Jesus said, has been a transformative path toward my image, shaped by suffering, not because suffering is desirable, but because it has taught you to trust me in ways that few ever experience. He revealed to me that this profound trust, the ability to offer praise in the dead of night, and the unwavering commitment to choose eternal love, even when hate might be easier, will shine with unparalleled brilliance in my kingdom. A day is coming, Jesus declared, when the genuine spiritual heritage of your people will be fully revealed and honored. He explained that the wisdom you have safeguarded, the steadfast faith you have nurtured, and the boundless love you have shown are essential threads woven into the fabric of my kingdom. As my time with Jesus neared its end, he entrusted me with a final message, a command to share with the world. Tell them, he said with deep love and authority, that the era of misunderstanding and distortion is drawing to a close. Tell them that the spiritual heritage of Black people is not a curse, but a blessing, not a source of shame, but one of glory, not a burden, but a gift to all of humanity. He continued, explain that the strength you have displayed, the wisdom you have preserved, and the love you have maintained even in the midst of hate are not merely human accomplishments. They are divine endowments, reflections of my power and character in extraordinary ways. Tell them, Jesus said, his voice both commanding and tender, that I am now calling forth the complete spiritual power and wisdom that I have placed within Black people. The time has come for this light to shine without restraint, for this wisdom to be acknowledged, and for this strength to be celebrated. As I felt myself returning to my body, Jesus offered one final instruction. Remember, Amy, you did not witness these things solely for yourself. You must share what you have seen, for many are now ready to hear these truths. The time of awakening had arrived. I awoke in the hospital, surrounded by the steady beep of machines and concerned faces. The doctors told me I had been clinically dead for 15 minutes. They called my survival a medical miracle, yet I knew it was so much more. I had been granted a divine appointment, a sacred mandate to proclaim these revelations. What Jesus disclosed about the true spiritual heritage and destiny of Black people has forever transformed my life. It has given me a new perspective on our history, our suffering, and our purpose in God's grand design. More than that, it has shown me that what many have mistaken for a curse was, in fact, a hidden blessing, a divine preparation for a unique role in my kingdom. I share this testimony not to sow division or claim superiority, but to foster healing and restoration. These truths are not meant solely for Black people. They are for anyone who yearns to understand God's ways more deeply. They demonstrate how God can transform what the world perceives as weakness into a display of His strength, how He can turn suffering into splendor, and how He has preserved vital spiritual wisdom through a people many sought to destroy. If you are hearing this, know that these revelations speak not only of the past, but also of the present and the future. They invite us to recognize and celebrate the divine wisdom and strength that have been cultivated through the journey of Black people, and to understand how this very wisdom and strength will be essential for all believers in the times ahead. Most importantly, these revelations are about hope. Hope that God has not forgotten His people, that every tear and every struggle serves a purpose, and that even the darkest chapters of history are being transformed into something beautiful. Let these truths sink deeply into your heart. Allow them to challenge your preconceptions and broaden your understanding. May they heal ancient wounds and inspire hope for the future. For in embracing these truths, we draw ever closer to comprehending the heart of God and His magnificent plan for all His children.